I'd like to say it started in some dramatic way, but it didn't. It was just a Tuesday afternoon, and I was sitting in the corner booth of the only coffee shop near campus that didn't rush you out with blinking laptop timers and burnt beans. I went there often, mostly because no one asked questions. She was already there when I walked in. Always was, most days. Mrs. L. My best friend's mom. I never called her that out loud, just Mrs. L. It felt safer that way, a thin kind of boundary. She sat by the window, a paperback half open, a thermos beside her like she didn't trust the coffee here. I ordered my usual, black coffee, nothing added. And when I passed by her table on the way to mine, she looked up, her eyes catching mine like she'd been waiting. "Still pretending you like it plain?" she said. It wasn't much, but it pulled a smile out of me. "Still bringing your own coffee?" Her lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. She closed the book and set it down. You never stay long," she said, her voice low, more observation than question. I looked up. "Neither do you." She leaned back, studying me for a second. "That's different." I wanted to ask her what she meant, but the words got caught somewhere between my throat and my coffee. I just nodded like I understood. There's this thing that happens with her, the pauses stretch. It's not uncomfortable, not really, but it's the kind of silence that makes you aware of every small detail. The hum of the fridge, the tap of her nail against her book cover, the way the light through the window made the lines at the corner of her eyes softer, not harsher. When I finally stood to leave, I hesitated. She didn't look up right away, just sipped from her thermos, like she already knew I'd wait. Then she said, without shifting her gaze from the window, "This stays between us." That was it. No context, no explanation. Just the words hanging there, heavier than they should have been. I walked out into the daylight carrying my half-finished coffee, replaying it over and over, trying to pin down what this even meant. The shop door clicked shut behind me, and my phone buzzed in my pocket. Her name on the screen. One message. "Next time, sit closer." The next time, I did sit closer. Not right across from her, but close enough that when she reached for her thermos, my elbow brushed the edge of her book. She didn't move it. Didn't move away either. I remember thinking, this is already too much. She asked about classes, and I gave the usual answer. Fine. I never knew how to explain the dullness of lectures, the way the notes piled up but never felt like mine. She listened anyway, chin resting on her hand, her eyes sharper than they should have been for a casual question. When she finally spoke, it wasn't what I expected. "Do you ever feel like you're wasting your time?" The question landed harder than I wanted it to. I half laughed, half shook my head. "That's my whole degree." Her smile flickered, quick and gone. Marriage was mine. The air seemed to change with that. She hadn't looked at me when she said it. Just at the window, like it was safer to speak to the glass than to me. And I didn't ask anything, not right away. I just let the silence stretch, watching her thumb trace the rim of the thermos. Finally, I said, "You're divorced?" She gave the smallest nod. "A long time now. Still feels recent." I didn't push. Something in the way she said it told me she'd given me more than she planned to. Still, I couldn't stop wondering why she told me it all. There's a risk in noticing too much. Like the way her voice dropped when she said the word recent. Or the way she didn't wear a ring, though I'd never thought to look before. Or the way I caught myself wondering how my best friend would react if he knew I was sitting here, listening to his mom talk about her marriage. I stirred my coffee, though it didn't need stirring. "I get it. About wasting time, I mean." She turned then, eyes narrowing like she was trying to read something in my face. "You're too young to get it." Maybe. Doesn't mean I don't feel it. That earned me a real smile, tired but real. She picked up her book, flipped it closed without marking the page. It felt like she wanted to change the subject, but didn't know where to go. I almost told her about the texts I never sent, the conversations I rehearsed and deleted before anyone could see them. But I didn't. Not then. When the rain started outside, it surprised both of us. The shop grew quieter, the patter against the glass filling in the spaces we weren't speaking. I checked my phone out of habit. No umbrella. No ride. Just the blinking cursor of another unsent message. She noticed. "You're walking?" "Looks like it." She hesitated, then said, "I've got my car. I can drop you." It should have been nothing, a neighbor offering a ride. a friend's mom being kind. But the way she said it, soft, almost careful, made my chest tighten. I wanted to say no. I wanted to keep it simple. Instead, I nodded. The drive was quiet. She kept both hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. I watched the way the rain slid down the windshield, the wipers stuttering against it. We didn't talk until she pulled up outside my building. "You're quiet," she said. "So are you." She laughed once, low, shaking her head. "That's fair. I should have left it there. Just thank her, close the door, walk away." But before I opened it, she reached across, her hand brushing my sleeve as she pulled something from the dashboard. A packet of tea, plain green. "For later," she said. "It helps on nights you can't sleep." Her fingers lingered a second too long against my arm. Not intentional, maybe, but I felt it. Felt it enough to stay in the car a moment longer, my hand closing around the tea like it was heavier than paper. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. And that was the problem, that we fell into a kind of rhythm after that. Coffee some afternoons. Short rides when the rain returned. Little things that felt normal until I tried to explain them in my head. Then they didn't sound normal at all. One evening, the coffee shop was louder than usual. Students crowded every table, midterms closing in. She waved me over, her book pushed aside, her thermos resting half empty. I sat across this time. No buffer table between us. "You look tired," she said. "Long week." I rubbed at my eyes, then stopped when I realized how casual it looked. Too casual. Her gaze lingered, soft but searching. I looked down at the napkin in my hands, folding it once, then again, until it was a tight strip. "You shouldn't burn yourself out," she said quietly. "And you shouldn't worry about me." I muttered, more defensive than I meant. Something flickered across her face, like she might pull back. For a second I thought she would get up, end it there. Instead, she leaned in slightly, elbows on the table. I can't help it. That's when the door opened. My friend walked in. Her son. He spotted me first, grinned, started making his way over. My heart slammed against my ribs. She straightened in her seat, hands closing around the thermos like it was an anchor. "Hey man," he said, sliding into the chair beside me. "Didn't know you were here." He glanced at her. "You too, Mom." She gave the faintest smile. "Just coffee." I couldn't breathe right. Every laugh, every word felt louder than it should. My friend chatted about class, about some party this weekend. She nodded, listening, but her eyes didn't leave her thermos. Mine didn't leave the napkin I'd folded to nothing. When he finally got up to order, the silence between us was sharper. She exhaled slow. "We shouldn't." I cut her off. "I know." Her eyes darted toward her son, then back to me. "Then don't look at me like that." I hadn't realized I was. Later, when the shop thinned out, she stood to leave. I followed her outside, the evening cool settling in. We walked side by side to her car, words hovering but never landing. At the door, she stopped, keys in her hand. "You need to be careful," she said. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Careful of what?" I asked, though I already knew. She didn't answer, just looked at me, the kind of look that lasts a second too long. My hand twitched at my side. Hers tightened on the keys. We were close enough. Too close, I thought, if I leaned forward, just slightly. But then she unlocked the car with a sharp click, the sound breaking whatever held us. She got in without another word. I stood there in the dim parking lot, the folded napkin still in my pocket, wondering if she'd felt it too. It wasn't planned. Nothing between us ever was. I'd gone out late for air. No real reason except the walls of my apartment felt too close. The night was still, cool, with that early autumn bite. I cut through the park across from our building, expecting it to be empty. She was there, sitting on a bench under one of the lamps, a paper bag by her side, her shoulders wrapped in a light sweater. For a second I thought about turning back, pretending I hadn't seen her. But she looked up at the exact moment, caught me in that way she always did. "You walk late?" she asked. "Sometimes." I shoved my hands into my pockets, trying to sound casual. "Couldn't sleep." She nodded, looking down at the paper bag. I couldn't either. She tapped the bag lightly. "Bought bread. Thought it would help." I almost laughed, but not in a mean way. "Bread helps." "Sometimes," she said, eyes flicking toward me, quick as a match strike. I sat down beside her, not too close, but not far either. The night hummed with quiet. A car in the distance, leaves scraping the path. She broke the bread, handed me a piece. Our fingers brushed, and I held on to that tiny contact longer than I should have before taking it. We ate in silence. Not awkward, heavy. Like both of us were listening for the other to say what they wouldn't. Finally, she said, "You were with him earlier." It took me a second to realize she meant her son. My friend. Yeah, I said carefully. We watched the game. Her jaw tightened just enough to notice. She wasn't looking at me, though. Just at the path in front of us. What? I asked. She shook her head, too quickly. Nothing. It's good. You should spend time with him. But her voice wasn't steady. It carried something else. Jealousy. Guilt. Both maybe. I tried to laugh it off. You sound like you don't want me to. That made her finally look at me. A long, searching stare that pressed into me harder than any words could. Don't make jokes. The bread sat heavy in my hands. I wanted to tell her that being around him only made it worse, made me more aware of the spaces between us. Instead, I said, "I don't know what you want from me." Her breath caught, the faintest sound, before she answered. Neither do I. For a while we just sat there, the lamp above us buzzing faintly. She leaned back, arms crossed, like she was trying to hold herself in. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, trying not to look at her. Then she said, "You remind me of when I was younger." A pause. Before I wasted so much time. I turned at that, heart pulling tight. You didn't waste it. Her mouth twisted like she wanted to argue. Instead, she whispered, "I don't get to say things like this. Not to you." Something in her voice cracked then, just slightly, enough to make me want to reach for her hand, close the space, take the weight off her shoulders. I didn't move. Not yet. The quiet stretched again, sharp as glass. I thought about the first time I'd seen her in that cafe window, how I hadn't even known what I was stepping into. I thought about her hand brushing mine when she gave me the tea, the way her eyes followed me when her son wasn't looking. I opened my mouth, closed it, tried again. "If I asked you." The words broke off, unfinished. She turned toward me slowly, her face lit in the dim glow of the lamp. "Asked me what?" Her question hung there, bare, impossible to answer without crossing a line. I couldn't. But I think she already knew. The next week, she wasn't at the cafe. I told myself it was nothing. People get busy, people change routines. But when a couple of days turned into 5, then 7, it started to feel like absence had its own presence. The window seat by the door, usually hers, sat empty. Her paperback wasn't on the table. Her thermos didn't glint in the morning light. Just absence, stubborn and loud. I still went, every afternoon. Sat in the corner booth, ordered coffee I never finished. Each time the bell over the door rang, I half expected it to be her. It never was. When I finally did see her again, it wasn't there. It was in the lobby of our building, a Saturday evening, her arms full of groceries. She stopped when she saw me, like she hadn't rehearsed what to do if this happened. I offered to help, but she shook her head too quickly. "You don't have to," she said, shifting the bags against her hip. "I don't mind." Her smile was faint, almost polite. Not the same. Still, don't. That night, I lay awake, trying to stitch the pieces together. What changed? Something must have. My mind replayed the bench, the bread, her words. "You remind me of when I was younger." Was that too much? Did she regret saying it? By Monday, the silence felt unbearable. I knocked on her door once, lightly, then stepped back before she could answer. I told myself it was better this way, but the truth was, I was afraid of hearing her say what I already knew, that it had gone too far, whatever it was. A few days later, her son brought it up casually while we were hanging out. "Mom's been different lately," he said, frowning at the TV. "I don't know. Quieter than usual." My throat went dry. "Different how?" He shrugged. "Not sure. She's been on the phone a lot. Maybe with Dad." I hadn't thought about him. The ex-husband. She never mentioned him except that one line. Marriage was her waste of time. But now, the idea of him calling, pulling her back into old patterns, lodged in my chest. I nodded like it was nothing. Maybe. But that night, the thought wouldn't leave me alone. Her silence wasn't about me at all. Maybe it was about him. Maybe she was reminded of why this could never be more than half-spoken sentences and bread under a park lamp. I still saw her sometimes, in the mailroom, in passing. Each time, her eyes slid past me just a little too quickly, like she couldn't risk letting them rest. Once, she smiled, but it felt rehearsed, the kind of smile you give a neighbor you don't want to invite in. I almost sent her a message that night. Wrote out the words twice, deleted them both. Did I do something? Do you want me to leave you alone? Neither felt right. Both felt desperate. So instead I stared at the blank screen, thumb hovering over the send button, waiting for some courage that never came. Days passed like that. I still went to the cafe, but the seat across from me stayed empty. The bread from that night hardened on the counter until I finally threw it away. The packet of tea she'd given me sat untouched in my drawer. And the whole time, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence that it was late when it finally broke. I'd just come back from the cafe, another day of waiting at the empty window seat, when I saw her standing outside our building. No groceries this time, no book, no thermos. Just her, arms crossed, keys dangling loose in her hand. She looked like she'd been there a while. I slowed, unsure if I should say anything. But she looked up first. You're out late a lot. Helps me think. My voice sounded thin in the cool night. Or not think. She nodded like she understood too well. Neither of us moved to go inside. The street lamp hummed above, throwing a pale circle around us. Finally, she sighed. You've been avoiding me. I blinked. I thought you were avoiding me. Her laugh was sharp, small, not really a laugh at all. Maybe both. We stood there with the night between us, the weight of weeks pressing down. I shoved my hands into my pockets, felt the edge of my phone. The unsent messages. All the words I couldn't bring myself to send. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her shoulders shifted, softer now. Neither do I. She turned toward the door then, keys clinking as she unlocked it. For a moment I thought that was it. Another silence, another pause. But when she pushed the door open, she didn't go inside. She stepped back, holding it for me. Her kitchen smelled faintly of tea and soap. She set the keys down, leaned against the counter. I stayed near the door, unsure if I should sit, if I should leave. She broke the silence first. You shouldn't be here. I know. But you are. I am. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. You're my son's friend. I know, I repeated. And you're young. I almost laughed. You're not old. That got the faintest smile out of her. But it faded quickly, replaced by something heavier. She picked up a cup from the counter, set it back down without drinking. Her hands wouldn't stay still. I can't afford to get this wrong again, she said finally. Not with anyone. Not with you. The words landed heavy. But underneath them was something else. Not dismissal, not rejection. Fear. I moved closer, slow, not wanting to startle whatever fragile space existed between us. I stopped just across the counter, close enough to see the lines of tiredness at the corners of her eyes. I'm not asking you for forever, I said quietly. I'm just here. She studied me for a long time, like she was weighing the cost, like she was counting every risk, every consequence. Then she whispered, You make me feel seen. The kitchen went still. I didn't breathe. Her hand was resting on the counter, fingers curled loosely. Mine hovered just above, the air between them electric, almost unbearable. I didn't touch her. Not yet. Do you want this? I asked, my voice barely holding. She didn't answer right away. Just looked down at our hands, then back up at me. And then, with a soft exhale, she gave the smallest nod. Not a declaration. Not a promise. Just a quiet yes. I placed my hand over hers. Nothing more. No grand gesture, no rush. Just warmth meeting warmth. Her shoulders loosened, her eyes softened. Okay, she whispered. And that was enough. It didn't happen all at once. There was no morning I woke up and thought, this is it, we're together now. It came like the slow shift from winter to spring, subtle, almost invisible, until one day I realized the cold had lifted. We stopped circling each other. The silences that used to hold their breath now just felt like pauses, like natural rests in the middle of a long song. The cafe became ours again, though not every day. Sometimes it was just a short coffee before work. Sometimes it was her thermos sitting between us, steam curling into the air. I went back to ordering black coffee. No sugar, but now she'd slide half her scone across the table without a word, and I'd eat it without pretending I didn't want to. It was 8:47 a.m. One Tuesday. I remember because the clock on the wall had just chimed the hour and a half. She leaned across the table, brushed a crumb off my sleeve, then sat back like nothing had happened. It was such a small thing, but it stuck with me. The kind of detail you carry, like the folded napkin still pressed flat in the drawer of my desk. Sometimes we'd walk in the park at night, back to that same bench under the lamp. The bread became a joke between us. Therapeutic carbs, she'd call it. But once in a while she still brought some, breaking it in half like she had that first night. I never told her I kept that memory sharper than any photo. She didn't hide from her son, either. We didn't flaunt anything, but the three of us still sat in the living room sometimes, watching games, trading dry comments about commercials. If he noticed anything, he didn't say. Maybe he chose not to see. Maybe he understood more than I gave him credit for. The thing is, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't movie perfect. Some nights we argued about nothing, groceries, bills, my mess in the sink. Some mornings she was quiet, weighed down by things I couldn't fix. But she let me stand in the kitchen while she brewed tea, and I'd watch her steady hands twist the lid of the thermos. And I'd think, this is what it means to stay. One evening, months after that night in her kitchen, I found her sitting by the window again with her book open, untouched. She didn't look up when I came in, just gestured at the seat across from her. I sat, pulled my phone from my pocket, showed her the draft of a message I'd written weeks before and never sent. "Do you want me to leave you alone?" She read it, eyes flicking up to mine, then down again. For a moment I thought she might laugh, dismiss it, but instead she reached across the table, slid the phone back toward me. "No," she said softly. "Just that. No explanations, no justifications." And somehow it was enough to close the loop on all the silence we'd carried. Now, when I think back, it isn't the near misses or the almost confessions I hold on to. It's the quiet moments, her hand brushing mine as she passed me tea, the way she said careful without meeting my eyes, the pause before unlocking the car door. All those unfinished sentences that finally found their endings in simple, ordinary days. I don't know if I'd call it love the way movies do, but it's ours, and it feels real. Sometimes, sitting beside her in the park, I'll glance at the clock on my phone just as it turns 8:47, and I'll catch her looking at me like she remembers too. We don't say anything. We don't need to.